Okay, well, 12:03, I think it's time to get going. So I'm Rachel Massey. I'm the Executive Director of the UNO Alumni Association. Welcome, privateers, to our virtual Meet Us At series. Welcome back to it. I hope everyone had a nice 4th of July, safe and enjoyable. Today, we're talking with Rachel Harris-Ledette, who's a marketing strategist and the Chief Marketing Director for 3090 Marketing. She's also an adjunct professor here in our PACE department for continuing studies. We'll be teaching a course on marketing this fall. So we're really excited to have Rachel with us actually back again. Today she's going to talk with us about search engine optimization. She's absolutely willing to take questions throughout or some at the end as well. Please use the chat function in your Zoom screen to queue questions, and she'll pause at times to answer. Some may be saved till the end as well. We'll be back on at the end to do a little wrap up, but meanwhile, I'm going to turn it over to Rachel. Thank you so much for being with us, Rachel.
Hi, thank you. This is like the Rachel and Rachel show today.
It is.
My name is Rachel, and I am currently working on the PACE department's digital marketing class, as Rachel mentioned. And so last year we did an in-person class, which was really great. It's a 2-semester course, 8 weeks each. So they're mini semesters, and it went really well. And UNO's PACE department asked me to transition it to an online course for this upcoming year, partly just to get more access to more alumni across the country and even beyond if interested. And so we are sort of doing a flip over, using the same content and sort of model and making an online course. So it's a great class. It'll be interactive. There's a bunch of information on the PACE website. If you want more information, or you can shoot me an email, I'll give you my contact information at the end. But it's a sort of a 2-semester overview of digital marketing and some of the theory and strategy leading into digital marketing tools. The students last semester and last year loved it, and I highly encourage you, if you're interested in learning more about digital marketing, to at least check out what the curriculum goes through, and I'm happy to answer questions. So today we're going to talk about search engine optimization, which you will often hear SEO. And it's sort of this ethereal term, and it can be a little daunting, but it is really made up of many different factors, but it's not scary. So I want to walk you guys through a base overview today so that you at least kind of know some of the parts and pieces and some of the key terminology that is involved with optimizing for search, so that you even really know what that means and can explore different areas and options to enhance your own SEO for your business, your company, or someone that you might work for. So I am going to open my PowerPoint now and make sure that I can share my screen. So let's see here. So I believe I have my screen shared. I want to make sure that you guys can see this right now. Please, someone let me know if there's an issue. But I believe we're up and running. So search engine optimization. I want to share with you today just an introduction and some methods to optimize your website's traffic. And the reason that we want to be able to do this is because our websites are used for visibility and for trust building, and depending on what you're selling, potentially sales. There are a lot of different reasons why we need our websites to be optimized. And certainly the marketing strategy behind your website will closely match the strategy behind your SEO. So just quickly, what I do in my company as a marketing consultant, I work with clients on developing marketing planning and setting strategies, which also include communication strategies. We look at a lot of digital marketing functions and tools, and also some more traditional marketing materials, which can include print, signage, anything that you would use to support a sales process. And we also talk a lot about business development planning, business development strategy, and there is training involved with business development teams, which is just an alternative word to a sales team, and that depends on what industry you're really in. Also, as we mentioned, I am teaching the digital marketing certificate program at UNO. So very quickly about me and kind of what I do with my clients and my professional time. Okay, cool. Y'all can see it. I'm just double checking. I don't want to keep going and miss you guys. So what is SEO? The goal really is to increase the visibility of your site and to rank high on search engines. So we're talking about unpaid methods. We're not talking about Google ads or Facebook ads. This is ways in which we are building in actual phrasing, written content, and some different things that allow the different search engines to find us in a free way. This is often very content driven, and it's important that we understand how search engines work and understand how people as viewers have search behaviors, because we know that Google tries very hard to match the way that the suggested sites that come up really correspond to how actual people think and ask questions in search. There are algorithms that are ever changing, but a good rule of thumb is that quality content always works. And it's important to know that SEO is a marathon, not a sprint, and that sometimes it can take 6 to 9 months to really change the course of how well your SEO is doing. It's a continual process, and it's not like a quick start-stop thing. So it's a long building process of creating good content and staying consistent over a long period of time. So if we're going to define SEO, we are trying to create the best choices and the best options for our viewers. We're trying to connect the dots. We're trying to help people discover our content, and we're trying to instill confidence that our website really is the answer to the question that viewers are looking for. I really liked this quote by Alan Blywies, who's a marketing consultant. SEO is a process of helping search crawlers and the algorithms access, understand, and have formulaic confidence that this is the best choice for this search query. Ultimately, it's really about helping searchers discover your content and doing so in a way that it instills confidence to them, like, yes, this is what I was looking for. I think it's really funny sometimes when you enter in a question into Google and it already kind of writes out this long string that you were thinking, which is a little creepy sometimes, right? Because you're wondering to yourself, how does Google even know that's what I'm asking for? But it's always trying to guess based on your search history and things you might be looking for and the kind of content that you look for. It's always trying to kind of guess ahead of what you might be looking for. And so a lot of the new algorithmic changes over the last year have been to cluster different terminologies together of things that make sense and correspond to each other. And so if you're, looking up something like home renovations, Google knows that interior design and wall paint colors correspond to home renovation. So they're sort of lumping like ideas together. And we're trying to give a very confident answer, if you will, to our viewers. Quickly, We know that Google is sort of the king of web search. I just like to look at the numbers. 70% of web search across the world is done by Google, even higher on mobile search. Bing still ranks very well in the US. I don't particularly use Bing, but obviously a lot of people do. And the way that Bing works, the actual background of how the queries work power Yahoo. So that's why you'll see Yahoo is very widely used, even 3% worldwide. That's still, I think I read there was like 600 million people that use Yahoo monthly or something like that. Baidu is a search engine used heavily in China. I don't have a lot of Chinese clients, but certainly if you were doing a lot of international sales, you probably would want to do research on those search engines. And then there's a whole lot more that are listed out too. HubSpot has some great articles on different search engines that are used. For the sake of just practicality, most marketers really focus on Google for obvious reasons. And so SEO and Google kind of come synonymous, even though search engines really include all these search engines. You'll hear me reference Google primarily. Okay, so first, we're going to talk about on-page SEO. That means the actual content that exists within your website. How do you optimize your website? There are several different factors, and I'm going to just kind of walk you through some of the basics. Certainly, load speeds can deter ranking. So if your website is really, really slow to come up, there's a few reasons for that. Viewers won't stick around and wait for it. Google thinks that your site kind of has bugs or kinks, and so they might throw you out of ranking. We really want to shoot for under 2 seconds of page load time, and it's important to kind of know what our page load time is. So there are a few sites that offer free tools for load speeds. Some of these are really cool because you can enter in your website URL and it'll kind of tell you areas where maybe your images aren't optimized, or there's certain scripting, which is like the code behind your website, that might be kind of junk that needs to be cleaned up. I have some really awesome consultants that I use for some of this cleanup work. It's very techy. People that do deal a lot with back-end coding on websites are very proficient at cleaning this up. But SEObility, Uptrends, GTmetrix.com tools, these free tools will let you see what your load time is. There are some image optimization things that you can do. Sometimes if you drop in an image into a website, but it is not correctly sized to what's actually viewing on a page, and it's a really, really large megabyte file, A, it's not necessary to be that large, and B, it'll kind of clog up the bandwidth. And so those are some little things that can be done that your web developer can help you with. There's also some different back-end tagging and indexing that you can do. It's important that your site is indexed to Google, which means that Google can see each of these pages. And what that means is that Google can basically find what you have put out there. If you even just look up Google site indexing, and I think I have a link in here on the next page, it will let you know which things that basically have been cleared that Google can see. We're going to do a quick kind of run through of title tags, meta descriptions, alt descriptions, and some of this keyword usage and tagging on the next slide or two. So how do I know if Google has indexed all of my pages on my site? If you enter in quote site colon and then 3090marketing.com, it will show in Google all the pages that Google can see. So you can just do a quick check to make sure that your pages are connected and that they're viewing properly. The title tag is an actual HTML element that tells the viewer what the title of the page is. And I'll show you an image of that in just a second. And these are built into your SEO builder, depending on how your website is built. These can be coded in, and they also can come up in widgets or apps that help you build your SEO for your site. So I know on my website, there's actually boxes that come up that help you to develop your SEO. If you don't know where those are, or you haven't developed your site, it's good to ask your web developers and to kind of stay abreast of if these are entered correctly and if they're showing up correctly. Your meta description is sort of that like 2 to 3 line sentence or tagging that shows up under the title that explains to people what they're even looking at. And alt descriptions are used on actual pages. You see this a lot over images. It's actually designed to help the vision impaired. There's a lot of new regulations about ADA compliance on websites that are coming out because people who are using mobile application and people who have hearing impairments that are using different softwares to read websites to them, it actually helps them to guide through what is on the page. It also gives Google an extra little snippet that says, what is this image of? And that's how Google search images works. So they're actually using the alt text tied to the image. When you Google, picture of watermelon, it knows that it's watermelon because it's tagged appropriately through the alt descriptions. So if you just did a search on Italian restaurants New Orleans, you'll see that the title tags that come up for the 10 best Italian restaurants in New Orleans under TripAdvisor, that blue text is the title tag. The best Italian restaurants in New Orleans on OpenTable's website. Here it again, it's in blue, and it's trying to use phrasing that they have typed it in so that this is sort of a response to a question. Typically, we want to make sure that our primary keywords and secondary keywords are showing. And so my guess is here, Italian restaurant in New Orleans are kind of their 2 main keywords that they're including and making sure to include. And we need to make sure that we're fitting what we need to fit. So rule of thumb, 50 to 60 characters. You can see when you're typing this in if it's falling off or not. Where the ... is after the February 2020, they probably have something else written in there too. It's good to have something that makes sense visually and also makes sense to the viewer. Your meta description is the actual, paragraph or listing that shows up under there. So you can kind of see that the OpenTable meta description is sort of this like long list with the dollar amounts. I wouldn't say that that's a great example of a meta description. OpenTable is an actual directory type site, which is why it shows a little weird. But if you look at that last one, the 2020 Best Italian Restaurants, New Orleans dash, I think that's Gayot or Gayo, authentic Italian food in New Orleans, whether you're craving a simple plate of spaghetti and meatballs or ossobuco, blah, blah, blah. So they're like using words like spaghetti, meatballs, restaurant, New Orleans, things that they believe tie to what you might be searching for as a viewer who's looking for Italian restaurants. You can find some great examples of well-written meta descriptions if you just Google that. And so we're going to jump over to keyword usage. It's really important when we're writing our website content that we are using the appropriate keywords and that we are using them kind of systematically. It's called keyword stuffing if you have a web page that's, let's go back to the Italian restaurant. You can't say meatballs and spaghetti 60 times in a paragraph because Google will throw that as a flag and say this site is kind of spammy. And so there's kind of a rule of thumb of like a 2% keyword density. So I've kind of seen 1 keyword per 100 or 2%. So basically 1 to 2 times in every 100 words, you can use the same keyword over again. So if you're writing 300 words and you're using spaghetti, you should use that 3, 4, 5 times. You can use other keywords as well and mix them in, and you want to make sure that they're there so Google knows it's applicable, but that it's not just like spaghetti, 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 because it'll start to throw a red flag. You want to make sure that you don't have any broken links on your page, because that also can detract on your ranking score. And you want to make sure that you're not plagiarizing, because Google does not like that as well. There are sort of 3 main types of keywords. And so head keywords are 1 or 2 words with very high search volume, probably like Italian restaurant. Body keywords would be 2 to 3 word phrases that are really good for search. They're kind of a medium search ranking, like ossobuco would probably be one of those. That's a word that kind of supports your Italian restaurant, but it's not necessarily the lead thing someone's going to search on Google. It's important to have it in there because kind of goes back to that whole clustering of ideas. Google knows what makes sense together. Long tail keywords are several words strung together that do show up when people enter questions into Google, like best Italian restaurants near me, or home renovations, modern style, things that are more like 4 or 5 words together that would describe something very specific that you're offering. I just had a question, so jumped over to that. 2 questions. So how do you edit your title tags and meta descriptions? This is in your SEO builder that is within your website. So WordPress has specific applications that build your SEO. If you're using a template-based site like Squarespace or Wix, they have an SEO builder in the settings function. Each sort of content management system does it a little differently. So if you have not designed your own website, it's important to ask your web developer to either get involved in that process or to even ask them if they have completed it. If you Google yourself in your own company, you'll see what's coming up. So you'll be able to see what's filled out. And a lot of the SEO builders will give you advice on which keywords you should use. Plagiarizing, the second question, can you explain plagiarizing keywords? What I'm talking about with plagiarizing is not taking actual content from another site just because they have the same keywords you like. So you can use the same keywords like spaghetti, you just don't want to copy their whole paragraph. That was more related to utilizing keywords in your own language and not copying their language, to clarify that. Does that make sense? Y'all can message me. I think I have my chat up now if y'all want to ask more questions. Okay, cool. Another idea for keywords, brainstorm. What things make sense for your company? So when I'm writing content as a marketing consultant, I'm looking at other marketing firms. I'm looking at articles that they write about and keywords that I see them use and things that I see that are very interactive on their site. And that gives me ideas, like maybe I should write a blog about SEO because that's what people are interested in. And so you can kind of watch what other people are doing to brainstorm and to see what makes sense for your company. So that's sort of checking other competitors, doing brainstorming that really match what you provide and what you offer. And then the other 2 big things is that you can check your own Google Analytics. So if you see that, I have a lot of architecture clients, so I always go back to architecture when I'm talking about different client work. But, if you see that you're an architecture firm and half of all of your web search comes from, restaurant design, well, then that means that people who are looking for you are really, really interested in that area. And so maybe you need to talk more on that or invest more time in developing content on that. If you're seeing that interior design is a really popular topic that is being searched and hit on your site, then that's something that you should invest in and really use as one of your main keywords. The other thing that is really great is if you have a Google Ads account, there is a free keyword search function that they utilize so that when you're developing Google Ads, you know which ways to write your ads. And so having a Google Ads account is free. And I often will use it for my clients, even if we're not buying ads, to go do searches on what the best strings, what search terms work the best for their industry. So I'll use that tool as well. I have a client that I'm working with right now that does photography. And so there's a lot of different ways to say family photography, child photographer, photographer New Orleans. There's a bunch of different ways to write that. And so I really wanted to go see which terms nationally were doing the best. And so I literally was playing on Google Ads about 2 weeks ago, just with keyword search, so that you can kind of see which things are coming up higher, because that means that's how people are actually using the web, and that can help you when you are writing content for your site. So now we're going to switch to content. Always, we need to make sure that our content, our written content, aligns with our brand messaging, so that it makes sense. So when people get to your site, they know that they're landed in the right place and that you are who you've described and that it all makes sense. Certainly we want to use those keywords. We want people to know that what they've clicked on makes sense to them. When we get to a web page that doesn't make sense, we bounce off of it. When Google sees that you have too many bounces, it means they basically algorithmically can tell that you're not feeding people what they're asking for, and that's not good. We want to try to have at least 300 words per page, which is sometimes difficult, especially on home pages. If it's a type of company or brand that's very image driven, people don't often like to have a lot of words on their homepage. So there's kind of this battle between aesthetics and good SEO. My clients and I go back and forth on this all the time. So there's sort of like a science and an artistry, and it's important to have a balance. But certainly we know that more words, the better, if they make sense and it's well written and still looks good. So we have to kind of watch that balance. For blog links, I've seen 400 to 600 words be the suggested length. I've also read that we should have a goal of more like 1,000 to 2,000 words, because anyone who's writing more than us on the same content is going to win sort of the SEO battle. So I would definitely say at least 400, trying to get up to that, maybe 1,500 to 2,000 words. The more that Google can see that you have content that is written and makes sense and answers those questions that people are searching, the better for the SEO match. Include optimized images, which means that they're sized appropriately, they have alt text in them, they make sense. And anytime that you can use interlinks amongst your own website, so like let's say I'm writing an article about SEO, and then I want to link to the page under my services tab that talks about SEO, that's an interlink, so that you're basically passing the viewer into other spots on your website. Also linking to outbound links, so maybe other sources that are talking about that topic. David's one of my friends who also does a lot of SEO consulting, and he says keep the juice flowing between the pages, and I think that's kind of funny, but it's kind of like you're making everything correlate and correspond and have this little conversation back and forth. Conversationally, good segue, the way that Google has changed, probably even over the last 6 months to a year, I had mentioned, is more about conversations and questions people ask. And so instead of just, pizza restaurant as a search, people are asking things in this sort of conversation as if Google is a person answering the question. Maybe this is coming from the whole Alexa, sort of trend in life, but where is the best pizza near me is kind of more how Google is answering sort of these like search related questions. And so it's just kind of interesting to see how that shift has happened and how you can write to answer, best pizza, or as y'all saw on the meta descriptions, like great Italian restaurants, and then mentioning menu items, because it's kind of answering these questions a little bit more conversationally. Other content examples that you can share on your website, videos. It's great to have captions or to have transcripts also attached to the video, because then that you can upload those documents as another source of written content. Infographics that have, which is basically like just a graphic that might explain some data or some process. And then sometimes those even get shared on other sites, which is really, really good for inbound linking. Google My Business, you can, of course, fill out your profile on Google My Business. And then if you have different posts or just even infrequently have some activity there, that also can help with Google. And then, of course, as we said, this is a marathon. We need to have consistent content. We need to be consistently and continuously updating content, changing some, text on your website, adding blogs, keeping it fresh, adding, different news announcements, keeping things active so that your website doesn't look stale. Google likes when websites are ever changing and ever updating. Some off-page SEO. So this is off-page, meaning different things that help your Google rank that are not on your actual website. We know that having a profile on social media helps to sort of define your trustworthiness in the Google algorithm. And Google sort of says that social media likes and follows don't lead automatically to ranking, but we do believe that the links to content on your site help with the trust factors and help with the amount of traffic, which ultimately does lead to ranking. So maybe it's indirect, but certainly active social media helps. There's more visibility for your content if you're reposting your blog on your Facebook or your LinkedIn. We also know as marketers that LinkedIn profiles, actual people, professional profiles, often outrank even your website's rank on Google. So it's kind of like this free secondary spot to be active, and if it makes sense for your profession and your company to have a LinkedIn profile. We talked about that in another web series, and you can go back and watch it because UNO has it posted. That's a great free place to also drive traffic and just visibility for yourself and your company. Social ads, another element to have a continuous conversation with your viewers. And we know that more clicks to your website equals more authority on Google. So if you guys read something that I've written on LinkedIn and then you click on my website, and then I have 100 people clicking around my website each month, that adds authority in Google's eyes as well. Okay, a video related question. Is it better to have the video hosted on your website or embedded from another source like Vimeo or YouTube? I think it kind of depends. I really appreciate YouTube because it is another search engine, and we all know that it is a highly, highly climbing search engine. And so my personal use is to post videos that are marketing related on YouTube and then share those links through to my social. That's how I do video on YouTube to social. If a video is embedded in your website, It does a few things. It keeps people there longer. We know that, and we know that viewership time matters to Google. I think it depends what the content is and how you want it to be searched. If you're trying to use your YouTube page as like a media library, then posting it there and then including links can certainly be useful. If you're trying to use it as a branding, like on my website, I have a banner video that I'm really kind of trying to use as like a branding, quick intro to me and kind of what I do for people. So I have that embedded locally because I don't want it to be jumping or slow. I think it's a good idea to talk to your web developer about the best place for it based on the video time. Like if it's really long, I wouldn't want it hosted directly on the website because it could slow you down. So it's like a best case, best use scenario. I don't know that there's a one quick answer for that. It kind of depends on what it is. If it's like a longer tutorial, I probably would host it on YouTube and then include maybe like on a resources page or on a blog page or something like that on your site, links to it on YouTube. I hope that helps. We can talk more about that too at the end, Kelsey. Okay. The last point was just having a social media calendar that's consistent and that has consistent messaging so that your brand identity stays consistent and that you're really trying to focus on engagement with your viewers, because ultimately that is the point of social, and that we want to have that consistent conversation with our viewers and our buyers. And also, if you see patterns of topics, what better way than to use those little tidbits for actual content on your website? So we can kind of repurpose some of these same projects, if you will. Backlinks. So backlinks just mean that somewhere else in the web universe, there is links to your company's website. What this does is kind of just tells Google that there are other people out in the world who know about you and trust you and point back to you. And there's a few different ways you can do this. There's definitely directory listings, like if you're in a certain type of industry and there's trade publications or business directories, local citations like Bing and Yelp. If you're a restaurant, like or any, there's a ton of service providers now, like more and more you're seeing auto body shops and all kinds of things, nail shops on Yelp. Having those other citations point back to you on Google Maps and Apple Maps, that just gives you another place that you exist, that your address and company website are existing out in the world. And that helps to point back to your site. You can invite guest bloggers, and so if they're blogging and you're tagging them and then they're sharing it on their companies or their organization's webpage, and then they're basically citing back to you, it's like the old school like term paper. Like the more citations that you have that show that you've done your research, kind of is the same on the web. The more things that intertwine and say, oh yes, this topic makes sense and it's cited across many places on the web, it just gives you rank points. If you can get published in a trade publication or write a press release or have another organization, like let's say you're a big donor for your local cancer society and they're going to do some social media blitz and they're tagging your company. All of these are backlinks back to your webpage. I even saw a great suggestion to serve as a guest writer in another publication. So maybe you have professionals at your company or you're a writer and you're going to write something in some publication and have it linked back to your company's pages or reference points. So these are all backlinks that you can use and ask for. Sometimes it just takes asking. That was a lot of information about several different things that can lead into SEO. There's not one quick, like, easy button to drive your SEO ranking. You sort of have to be active and aware of many different facets, and it's your SEO is part of sort of an overall marketing plan. I wanted to just make sure that today we were able to talk about some of these definitions and what you even should be asking for. This is my email address and my company's website. And then, of course, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. And so please get in touch if you have any questions or you think of anything or you want to ask some more questions about the digital marketing class. I would love to talk to you about it. That is really all I have on my very quick overview of SEO today, but I'm happy to answer any questions or at least try to point you in the right direction. I certainly encourage self-research. There is a ton online about SEO. The only thing I would caution you is to look at the date of any articles or blogs that you see, because there's a lot of content written about SEO, but not all of it is super up to date. So I just kind of try to, take that with a grain of salt. Yes, so UNO will actually show this whole video. They'll save it and put it on YouTube. And then also I send the PowerPoint to them, and so they will have access to it as well. And then Dominique asked, is digital marketing class online? So it is online. So last year it was in person on the UNO campus. This year is going to be online. It starts September 28th. It's an 8-week session. And then there's a break for the holidays, and then there's another 8-week session. And so when you're done with those 2 sort of mini semesters, they call them, you, once you've completed the assignments and the portfolio, you will get a certificate from UNO for the class, which is, I think a really great outcome for taking a course, especially if you're using it for resume building or just job enhancement. And it's very interactive. It's sort of building a portfolio that makes sense for walking through content development, so that if you are trying to enhance your career or apply for a job or anything like that, that you have some actual tactile examples of what you've learned in the course. So it's a pretty good overview of marketing strategy and how that really ties into the tools that are digital marketing. If you look on the UNO PACE, P-A-C-E website, there is a summary of the class. So you can kind of go look at which topics are covered in semester 1 and 2, but they do go together. Are there any other questions?
Okay, I want to take this time. I'm Whitney with the Office of Alumni Relations. I'm the Associate Director of Alumni Engagement. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and especially Rachel for hosting this webinar. This was very, very informative, and I feel like I learned a lot. I hope everybody else did. And as Rachel said, you can connect with her at rachel390marketing.com, as well as we will have a recording of this session. It will be posted on our website, the unoalumni.com/virtual events. We will also be sending a follow-up email, so you can go ahead and when you get that email, we'd like you to kind of fill out the survey and let us know what you liked about this event and what else you would like to see from us in the future. We are very busy planning more events for you just like this. And so I invite you to connect with us on social media, as well as the UNO Matrix, for more programming that we have planned. And we are so happy that you joined us today. So again, thank you, everyone.
Thank y'all. Thanks, alumni group.